My name is Daniel Carter, and I've spent the last 20 years of my 46 catching liars for a living. Insurance fraud investigator. That's the official title on my business cards. What it really means is, I've built a career on reading micro-expressions, analyzing patterns, and spotting the telltale signs when someone's story doesn't match reality. I've exposed fake injuries, staged accidents, and phony thefts worth millions. I pride myself on seeing through deception, which makes what I'm about to tell you particularly bitter. Claire and I had been married for 15 years. No kids. We'd tried early on, but it wasn't in the cards, and we'd made peace with that. Our suburban life in Westchester was comfortable, predictable. She worked part-time at a veterinary clinic, I investigated insurance claims, and we met in the middle for dinner most nights. The intimacy had become routine rather than passionate, but it still happened twice a week like clockwork. Saturday mornings and Wednesday nights. She'd initiate with a specific touch on my shoulder, I'd respond, and we'd go through the familiar motions. I thought it meant we were stable, solid. The discovery happened on a Thursday evening in March. Claire had gone to shower after dinner, leaving her purse on the kitchen counter. It tipped over when I moved it to wipe down the granite and a phone fell out. Not her iPhone, the one I'd bought her last Christmas, but a cheap Samsung burner I'd never seen before. 20 years of investigating fraud had trained my instincts. A second phone is never innocent. The screen lit up with a message notification. "Tomorrow still good?" I picked it up. No passcode. Amateur mistake. The message was from someone named Andrew. I opened the thread and my world tilted off its axis. The messages weren't just about an affair. They were planning to kill me. "Once it's done, we'll have the money," Andrew had written 3 days ago. "Nobody will suspect anything." Accidents happen on boats all the time. Claire's response made my blood turn to ice water. "He won't see it coming." He trusts me completely. "It'll look just like an accident." My hands steady. Investigators training, I scrolled through weeks of messages. They'd been planning this for 4 months. Claire had researched drowning statistics, boat accidents, how long someone could survive in cold water. Andrew had sourced veterinary sedatives from Claire's workplace contacts. They discussed dosages, timing, locations. "The anniversary trip is perfect," Claire had written 2 weeks ago. "He'll be expecting romance, not this." Our 16th anniversary was in 10 days. I heard the shower turn off upstairs. Moving with practiced efficiency, I photographed every message, forwarded the entire conversation history to my secure cloud storage, and carefully placed the phone back in her purse at the exact angle it had fallen. My heart was hammering, but my hands remained steady. 20 years of crime scenes had taught me evidence preservation. Claire came downstairs in her terry cloth robe, hair wrapped in a towel, and kissed my cheek. "Thanks for cleaning up, honey," she said warmly. I studied her face, this woman I'd shared a bed with for 15 years. Her green eyes showed nothing unusual. Her smile reached all the appropriate muscles. If I hadn't just read her murder plans, I would have believed she loved me. "No problem," I managed, my voice normal. Another investigator's skill, never let them know what you know. She poured herself a glass of wine and settled on the couch. "Want to watch something?" she asked. We sat together watching Netflix, her head on my shoulder while I processed what I'd discovered. 4 months ago, she'd suggested I increase my life insurance. "We're not getting younger," she'd said then. "We should be prepared." I'd agreed, even thanked her for thinking ahead. The policy was now worth $2 million. I excused myself to the bathroom and checked our insurance documents on my phone. She'd increased it without telling me, doubled it from 1 million to 2. The change was made 4 months ago. The exact timeline matched when she'd started texting Andrew. When I returned to the couch, Claire snuggled closer. "I love you," she murmured against my shoulder. "Love you too," I replied automatically while my mind cataloged evidence. Tomorrow I'd need help. Tomorrow I'd need Nathan. My phone buzzed. I glanced at it casually. But the notification made my blood freeze. Our joint credit card had just been charged at a boat rental company. Claire was already making reservations for my murder. As she shifted against me, I saw her burner phone light up in her purse across the room. Even from here, I could read Andrew's new message. "Tomorrow we scout the location. Make sure you can get him there alone." Nathan Cooper's office occupied the 2nd floor above Rosario's Diner on Fordham Road. The smell of bacon grease and coffee permanently infused the walls. and the ancient radiator clanged like a ghost in chains. But Nathan had the best investigative mind I'd ever encountered, and more importantly, he was the only person I trusted completely. I'd called him at 6 that morning. "I need to see you." "It's personal," I'd told him. "How personal?" he'd asked, already alert. Nathan knew I didn't do personal. "Life and death personal," I'd replied. Now, sitting across from his cluttered desk, I handed him my phone with the photographed messages pulled up. Nathan read in silence, his expression growing darker with each swipe. When he finished, he set the phone down carefully and stared at me for a full minute without speaking, something that never happened. Nathan always had words. "Jesus Christ, Daniel," he said finally. "Yeah," I responded. "Claire? You're Claire?" he asked, disbelief in his voice. "Apparently she's Andrew's Claire now," I replied grimly. Nathan rubbed his face with both hands. "We've investigated, 300 insurance murders between us? But when it's someone you know..." He trailed off, then snapped back into professional mode. "Okay, evidence first, emotions later. Walk me through everything." I laid it out chronologically. The burner phone discovery, the message history, the insurance policy changes, the boat rental. Nathan took notes on his legal pad, occasionally asking for clarification. When I mentioned the veterinary sedatives, he pulled up Claire's workplace on his computer. "Animal Emergency Clinic of Westchester," he read aloud. "They'd have ketamine, propofol, pentobarbital. Any of those could disorient you enough to stage a drowning." "She's been asking about my swimming lately," I remembered. "Suggested we take lessons together for exercise." "I thought she was worried about my health." "She was. Just not in the way you thought," Nathan replied bluntly. He pulled up Andrew Reeves on his screen. "Handyman, boat mechanic, 2 arrests for fraud, currently 60 grand in debt to some very unfriendly people. Met your wife when?" "Last summer. He fixed our dock after that storm in July," I answered. "So she's been f***ing him for 8 months, planning to kill you for 4, Nathan stated with his usual directness. His bluntness was actually comforting, no pity, just facts. "The gambling debts explain his motivation." "What's hers?" I thought about our marriage, searching for signs I'd missed. Boredom, maybe? We'd become routine. Or maybe she never loved me at all, just waited for the right opportunity. "Doesn't matter now," Nathan said firmly. He pulled out a fresh legal pad. "We need a plan. First, documentation. You need cameras in your house, bedroom, kitchen, living room, audio recording in your car. Back up everything to multiple clouds." "Already ordered cameras for rush delivery," I replied. "Good. Second, we involve law enforcement," he continued. "Not yet," I said firmly. "I want ironclad evidence. Video, audio, documentation. I want her confession if possible." Nathan studied me carefully. "You want revenge, I want justice." "There's a difference," I insisted. "Sometimes," he agreed. He pulled up a calendar. 10 days until your anniversary. That's their timeline?" I nodded, then showed him Claire's browser history I'd captured through our shared Google account. She'd been researching specific lakes, water temperatures, Coast Guard response times. One location appeared repeatedly, Sabbath Day Lake, 3 hours north. "Isolated, poor cell service, averaging 2 drowning deaths per year. She's thorough," Nathan admitted grudgingly. "But she made mistakes. The insurance change without your signature? That's fraud. The veterinary drugs, theft and conspiracy. The burner phone, rookie error. And Andrew," he pulled up more records. "This a**hole's been arrested twice. He'll crack under pressure. We spent 3 hours building our counter-operation. Hidden cameras with cloud backup. Audio recorders in strategic locations. GPS trackers on both vehicles. Daily check-ins with coded phrases. If I missed a check-in, Nathan would alert authorities with all evidence." "What about a wire?" Nathan suggested. "Too risky. She's touching me more lately, playing the loving wife. She might feel it," I explained. The most disturbing discovery came when Nathan pulled Claire's credit report. She'd been opening accounts I didn't know about, moving money in small increments. "She's building an escape fund," he explained. "Probably planning to play the grieving widow for a few months, then disappear with Andrew." I found myself studying our wedding photo on Nathan's shelf. He'd been my best man. Claire looked radiant in white lace, gazing at me with what I'd believed was love. Now I wondered if she'd been calculating my value even then. "You okay?" Nathan asked. "I'm functional," I replied. "That's not what I asked," he pressed. "It's all I've got right now," I admitted. He nodded, understanding. We'll get through this. But Daniel, he leaned forward. When this goes down, you let me call it in. You don't try to be a hero. These people want you dead. That evening, I installed the cameras while Claire was at book club, or wherever she actually went on Thursday nights. The tiny devices disappeared into smoke detectors, air vents, picture frames, each one connected to a secure cloud server that backed up every 12 hours. When Claire came home, she kissed me hello, and I tasted another man on her lips. Good book? I asked casually. Wonderful, she replied, describing a plot she'd probably memorized from online reviews. That night in bed, she curled against my back, arm draped over my chest. I lay awake, feeling her breathe against my neck, wondering how many nights she'd laid here planning my death. Her phone, the real one, buzzed on the nightstand. She grabbed it quickly, but I caught a glimpse of the notification. Andrew. Can't wait to have you all to myself. After her breathing deepened into sleep, I slipped out of bed and checked the boat rental confirmation in her email. She'd used her credit card but listed Andrew as an additional authorized operator. They weren't even trying to hide their connection anymore. I found the lake on Google Maps. The rental dock was isolated, the waters were deep, and the nearest help was 30 minutes away. The perfect murder location. As I crept back to bed, Claire murmured in her sleep and reached for me. I let her pull me close, playing the oblivious husband, while documenting everything on the hidden camera pointed at our bed. Every embrace was evidence. Every kiss was conspiracy. Tomorrow, she'd probably suggest the anniversary trip herself, playing the devoted wife, planning a romantic getaway. And I'd say yes, grateful and unsuspecting, while my hidden camera recorded her performance. Nathan texted me at 3 a.m. Traced the sedatives. Claire's friend at the clinic reported a theft 2 weeks ago but didn't name suspects. The timing matches. I looked at my wife sleeping peacefully beside me, her face serene in the moonlight. In 10 days, she planned to watch me drown, but she'd forgotten who she married. I'd built a career on catching killers who thought they were smarter than the system. And now, my own wife was about to learn why insurance companies paid me so well to spot liars. Her burner phone buzzed in her purse downstairs. Even from here, I knew it was Andrew confirming tomorrow's scouting trip. They were moving forward with their plans, so was I. Claire announced our anniversary trip over breakfast 6 days before the date. Her timing theatrical and perfectly planned. She'd made my favorite omelet, fresh coffee, even put flowers on the table, staging the scene for her loving wife performance. I've been thinking about our anniversary, she said, touching my hand across the table. Remember when we used to go fishing when we first dated? Just the two of us on the water? Of course, I replied. Those early trips had been genuine before whatever poison had infected her heart. I found the perfect spot. Sabbath Day Lake, it's gorgeous, isolated, romantic. I've already talked to the rental company about a boat. We could make a long weekend of it, she continued, her green eyes sparkling with false enthusiasm. What do you think? Sounds perfect, I said, squeezing her hand while my hidden camera captured everything. You're amazing for planning this. She beamed, and if I hadn't known better, I'd have believed her joy was real. I want it to be special. 16 years is worth celebrating, she declared. That afternoon, while Claire was supposedly at work, I watched her on our security system as she returned home early. She went straight to our bedroom closet and pulled out a waterproof bag I'd never seen before. Inside were rope, zip ties, and what looked like anchor weights. She photographed everything with her burner phone, probably sending Andrew proof she was prepared. The hidden microphone picked up her phone conversation clearly. Yes, I have everything, she said into the phone. The sedatives are in a sealed bottle. They'll look like his heart medication. No, he won't suspect anything. He thinks I'm planning a romantic weekend. The insurance company already confirmed the payout timeline. Accidental death pays double. My stomach churned as she practiced her future widow voice. He just fell in. I tried to grab him, but he went under so fast. By the time I got the life ring, she actually practiced crying, timing how long it took to sound hysterical but coherent. That evening, she was extra affectionate, sitting on my lap while we watched TV, running her fingers through my hair. I love you so much, she whispered. I want this anniversary to be unforgettable. It will be, I promised, meaning it differently than she did. Over the next 3 days, I documented everything. Claire's research history showed she'd studied hypothermia, drowning physiology, and water rescue statistics. She'd learned that most drowning victims sink immediately if their lungs fill with water, making recovery difficult. She'd researched whether bodies float or sink in fresh water versus salt water. Nathan helped me prepare countermeasures. I practiced holding my breath, bought a concealed flotation device that looked like a regular belt, and memorized the lake's depth charts. Most importantly, we arranged for Nathan to alert authorities at specific checkpoints. If I missed any signal, the police would converge on the lake within minutes. 2 nights before the trip, I found Claire in the garage with our cooler, carefully placing beer bottles in a specific arrangement. She'd marked one bottle with a tiny dot of nail polish, almost invisible unless you were looking for it. That would be the drugged one, meant for me. She'd also purchased a new first aid kit, prominently displayed in our supplies. But I'd watched her on camera, removing the emergency GPS beacon and replacing the emergency flares with expired ones. She was eliminating any chance of quick rescue. The psychological torture of sleeping beside her became unbearable. She'd initiate sex with unusual passion, and I'd reciprocate while knowing she was essentially f***ing a man she planned to murder. During one encounter, she whispered, "I want to remember everything about you." A comment that would sound romantic to anyone who didn't know she was creating final memories before my death. Her performance extended to social media. She posted throwback photos of us with captions about feeling blessed and can't wait for our anniversary adventure. She was establishing her devoted wife persona for the investigation that would follow my death. I discovered she'd been texting Andrew from her burner throughout each day, coordinating details. He'd be at the lake in a separate boat, positioned to ensure I went under and stayed under. They'd rehearsed their stories. Andrew was just another fisherman who'd tried to help when he heard Claire screaming. Their planned statements were word-perfect, designed to corroborate each other. The worst moment came when I overheard her on the phone with her mother. "Daniel and I are stronger than ever," she said. "This anniversary trip is going to bring us even closer together." Her mother's response was audible through the phone. "You're so lucky to have found true love." Claire had also been studying my routines, noting when I typically drank, how much, how quickly. She knew I usually nursed a single beer while fishing, making it easy to ensure I'd consumed the entire drugged bottle. She'd tested the sedative on our neighbor's dog, claiming to dog sit, timing how long it took to disorient the animal. Nathan called with disturbing news. "Andrew's been shopping. Bought a waterproof camera, new boots, and, get this, a gaff hook. You know what those are for?" "Pulling large fish into the boat," I said, understanding the implication. "The hook would ensure I couldn't surface if I somehow fought the sedatives." He also cleared his debts yesterday, paid off 30 grand to some dangerous people. "Used Claire's money, I'm betting," Nathan informed me. "She gave him $30,000. I asked, shocked. "From the accounts she's been hiding?" "Daniel, they're not planning to wait. This is happening on your anniversary," he warned. "The final night before our trip." Claire suggested we update our wills, just to be safe before traveling. She'd already prepared the documents, needing only my signature. I signed them, knowing Nathan had copies of everything showing her forgeries and fraud. "Promise me something," she said that night in bed, her head on my chest. "If anything ever happens to me, you'll find someone else. I don't want you to be alone." "Nothing's going to happen to you," I said, fighting nausea at her performance. "But if it did, promise me you'd move on." "Find happiness," she pressed. "I promise," I lied, knowing she was projecting. Imagining her own future with Andrew after my death, she fell asleep holding me tighter than she had in years. I lay awake counting the hours until morning, when we'd pack our car for what she believed would be my last trip. The cameras captured her sleep-talking around 3 a.m., She mumbled Andrew's name and smiled. I checked my phone one last time. Andrew had sent his final message to Claire's burner. "Weather's perfect tomorrow. It's time." Claire had responded with a heart emoji. Tomorrow she'd dress in the new outfit she'd hidden in the closet, something photogenic for the grieving widow photos that would follow. She'd pack our lunch with loving care, ensuring my drugged beer was perfectly positioned. She'd kiss me goodbye to our house, knowing I'd never return. But she'd underestimated the man she'd married. 20 years of investigating murders had taught me one thing: killers always make mistakes when they think they're smarter than their victims. And Claire's biggest mistake was forgetting that I'd built a career on seeing through lies, especially the ones told by people who claim to love their victims. The morning of our anniversary dawned crisp and cloudless, murderer's weather as Claire had planned. She woke me with unusual tenderness, kissing my forehead and whispering, "Happy anniversary, my love." Her performance was flawless, down to the tears in her eyes that might have been real. Tears for the life she was about to destroy. She'd dressed carefully in jeans and the red flannel shirt I'd bought her years ago, playing the nostalgic wife. But I noticed the new waterproof boots, the expensive sunglasses that would hide her expressions, and the way she'd braided her hair tight, practical for what she expected to be a physically demanding day. "I packed everything last night," she said, bustling around our bedroom. "Your favorite sandwiches, those craft beers you like, and I even found your lucky fishing hat." The hat was a nice touch, something a grieving widow would mention to police. He was wearing his lucky hat. He loved that old thing. We loaded the SUV together, Claire directing the placement of every item. The cooler went in a specific spot where she could easily reach the marked beer. She'd positioned the first aid kit prominently in the back, the one with the disabled GPS beacon and expired flares. Everything was choreographed. "You seem excited," I said, playing my role. "I am. Aren't you?" 16 years, Daniel. We've built something beautiful together," she replied enthusiastically. The 3-hour drive north passed in surreal normalcy. Claire controlled the playlist, choosing songs from our dating years. She reached over frequently to touch my hand or my thigh, maintaining physical connection. At one point, she actually cried, genuine tears, while our wedding song played. "What's wrong?" I asked. "Nothing. I'm just emotional. Thinking about how much I love you," she replied, wiping her eyes. The truth was probably more complex. Some part of her might have genuinely loved me once, or loved the idea of me, the stable husband, the good provider, the unsuspecting victim. Sociopaths often experience real emotions, just not empathy for their victims. We stopped for gas 90 minutes in, and Claire insisted on paying inside while I pumped. Through the window, I watched her buy lottery scratchers, already spending my life insurance in her mind. She also made a call on her burner phone, probably confirming with Andrew that we were on schedule. Sabbath Day Lake appeared through the trees like a postcard, crystalline water surrounded by pine forests, deceptively peaceful. The rental dock was exactly as isolated as Claire had planned. No other customers, minimal staff, poor cell service. She'd timed our arrival for the lunch break when only one teenage employee would be working. Mr. and Mrs. Carter, the kid, maybe 17, greeted us enthusiastically. "Your boat's all ready. Mrs. Carter, you asked about the deep fishing spots?" He pulled out a marked map. "The best bays are here about 2 miles out. Gets about 40 feet deep, really isolated. Perfect for what you're looking for." Claire thanked him sweetly, folding the map carefully. She'd already known exactly where the deep water was. She'd been studying this lake for months. But she needed the employee to remember suggesting the location. We loaded our gear onto a modest fishing boat, Claire insisting on carrying the cooler herself. She positioned it precisely where she could control access to the drinks. I pretended not to notice how her hands shook slightly as she arranged everything. "Beer," she offered once we'd cleared the dock, holding out the marked bottle. "Start the celebration early?" "Maybe in a bit," I replied, taking the oars. "Want to get us positioned first?" A flash of frustration crossed her face before she recovered. "Of course, honey." "You're the captain," she said sweetly. As we moved across the lake, I spotted another boat in the distance. Andrew, maintaining separation but keeping us in sight. Claire didn't look directly at him, but I caught her checking that direction repeatedly. Her phone, the burner, buzzed in her pocket. She didn't check it, maintaining her performance. "This is perfect," she said as we reached the deep water. "Just like our first fishing trip, remember? You caught that huge bass and were so proud?" "I remember," I replied. I also remembered that she'd seemed genuinely happy then, laughing at my excitement. When had that woman disappeared? Or had she never existed? "Beer now?" she offered again, more insistent. I accepted the bottle, examining it while pretending to watch my fishing line. The tiny nail polish mark was barely visible. "Thanks, babe," I said. I took a small sip, then set it in the holder beside me. Claire watched intently, trying to look casual. "Not thirsty?" she asked, savoring it. "This is nice beer," I replied. Andrew's boat had moved closer, maybe 300 yards away. Close enough to respond quickly, but far enough to seem unconnected. I saw him checking something, probably the waterproof camera he'd bought to document my drowning for their protection. Claire handed me a sandwich, watching me eat while barely touching her own food. She kept glancing at the beer, calculating how much I'd consumed. I took another small sip, then secretly poured some overboard when she was distracted by rigging her fishing rod. "You know what I love about you?" she said suddenly. "What's that?" I asked. "You trust me completely. After all these years, you still trust me," she said, moving closer. The irony was so thick I nearly choked. "Of course I trust you." "You're my wife," I replied. She moved closer, sitting beside me on the bench. "I need you to know something. Whatever happens, I've loved our life together." "Whatever happens? You planning on going somewhere?" I asked suspiciously. Her laugh was forced. "No, I just mean, life is unpredictable. We should appreciate what we have." Andrew's boat engine started. He was repositioning, moving to cut off any escape route to shore. They must have agreed on a signal. Probably Claire would stand up or wave when I was sufficiently drugged. I took another pretend sip of beer, then let my movements become slightly sluggish. "Feel a little dizzy," I said. "Maybe the sun." Claire's entire body tensed with anticipation. "Maybe you should slow down on the beer," she suggested, trying to sound concerned. "Yeah, maybe." I stood up carefully, swaying slightly. "Think I need some water. I'll get it." She practically leaped for the cooler, then caught herself, moving more naturally. She handed me a water bottle, sealed, safe, and watched me drink. "Better?" she asked. "A little," I replied. I sat back down heavily, letting my eyes unfocus slightly. She checked her phone openly now, the real one. "No service out here," she said, establishing that fact for later. Then she stood up, stretching her arms above her head, the signal to Andrew. His boat roared to life, heading directly toward us. But something was wrong. He was coming too fast, too directly. This wasn't the plan they'd rehearsed. "Who's that?" I asked, playing confused. Claire's face went white. He's coming really fast," she stammered. Andrew's boat was 50 yards away when I realized what was happening. He'd gotten impatient or nervous. Instead of waiting for me to be fully incapacitated, he was improvising. His boat slammed into ours with a crushing impact that sent Claire tumbling forward. "What the f***?" she screamed. Genuine rage breaking through her performance. Andrew pulled alongside, and I got my first good look at my would-be killer. Younger than I'd expected, maybe 35, with the desperate eyes of a gambling addict. He was already drunk. I could smell the bourbon from 10 feet away. "Is he out?" he demanded, looking at me. "Not yet!" Claire hissed. "You're early. This isn't—" Plans changed. His friend's been asking questions downtown. "We do this now," Andrew interrupted. He climbed into our boat, making it rock dangerously. He was bigger than I'd expected, maybe 6'2" and solid. I let my head loll, playing semi-conscious while keeping my muscles ready. The concealed flotation device around my waist gave me confidence. Even if they got me in the water, I wouldn't sink. "Daniel?" Claire touched my shoulder, testing my response. I didn't react. "He's out enough," Andrew said impatiently. "Let's do this." But his drunk confidence made him careless. As he stepped toward me, his foot caught on the cooler. He stumbled, arms windmilling for balance. The boat's railing, the one I'd noticed was rotting during my preparation, gave way under his weight with a splintering crack. Andrew plunged backward into the lake with a tremendous splash, the weight of his boots and heavy jacket immediately pulling him down. He surfaced once, gasping and flailing. "Andrew!" Claire screamed, using his name, the mistake that would doom her. She threw him the life ring, but her panic made her clumsy. The rope tangled in her hands as Andrew went under again. He surfaced further away, already exhausted from fighting the weight of his waterlogged clothes. I made a split-second decision that would define everything. Instead of helping, I grabbed my phone, the one with the good GPS that actually worked, and called 911. "Emergency! Someone's drowning at Sabbath Day Lake. 2 miles northwest of the dock. Hurry!" I shouted into the phone. Claire was sobbing, screaming Andrew's name repeatedly as she tried to throw the ring again. But Andrew had gone under and hadn't resurfaced. The water where he'd been was still, just ripples spreading outward. "No, no, no!" Claire dove toward the edge, but I grabbed her. You can't swim in those boots. You'll drown too, I said firmly. She fought me viciously, clawing and screaming. Let me go! I have to save him, she cried. Save who? Who is Andrew? I asked, playing confused. Her face went white as she realized what she'd done. She'd been screaming her lover's name while her husband, who supposedly didn't know Andrew existed, watched her fall apart over a stranger's death. The Coast Guard arrived in 12 minutes, but Andrew had been under for 15. They pulled his body from 40 feet of water while Claire collapsed in hysterics. She wasn't performing anymore. Her grief was real, raw, and completely inappropriate for a woman whose husband had nearly drowned. Ma'am, did you know the victim? The officer asked. Claire couldn't answer, sobbing too hard. I stepped in, playing the confused husband. I don't think so. He crashed into our boat. Maybe drunk? My wife's just traumatized from seeing someone drown, I explained. The officer looked between us, noting Claire's excessive grief. Sir, are you injured? Your wife seems very upset. I'm okay. Just shaken up. This was supposed to be our anniversary trip, I replied, maintaining my confused husband act. They found the gaff hook in Andrew's boat. They found the waterproof camera. They found bourbon bottles and gambling receipts. Everything pointed to a drunk boater causing a fatal accident, except for Claire's reaction. Mrs. Carter? The officer tried again. Can you tell us what happened? She looked at me, desperate. Tell them, Daniel. I'm not sure what happened, I said truthfully. This man crashed into us, fell overboard, and drowned. My wife tried to save him. You knew his name, the officer said to Claire. You were screaming, Andrew! Claire's mouth opened and closed like a fish. She had no explanation that wouldn't reveal everything. As they wrapped Andrew's body and took our statements separately, Claire whispered urgently to me, You have to help me explain this. Please, Daniel. I can explain everything later. Just help me now. I looked at my wife, this woman who'd planned my murder, who'd just watched her lover drown, who was begging me to save her from the consequences. I don't understand what's happening, I told her honestly, but we'll figure it out. She grabbed my hand desperately, not knowing I was recording everything, that her whispered thank you would later become evidence of consciousness of guilt. The marked beer bottle bobbed in the lake, its poisoned contents diluting into 40 feet of water. The murder weapon had become just another piece of floating trash, like the plans Claire and Andrew had made. But Claire's tears were real. For the first time in months, maybe years, Claire was feeling genuine emotion. It just happened to be grief for the wrong man. I gave Claire exactly 24 hours to construct her story. She spent them pacing our house like a caged animal, alternating between hysteria and calculated plotting. She'd tried to explain Andrew's presence as coincidence, but her grief kept breaking through. The raw, ugly grief of a woman who'd lost her lover, not the shocked sympathy of someone who'd witnessed a stranger's death. You have to back me up, she said for the dozenth time, standing in our kitchen at 2 a.m. Tell them I was confused, that I must have heard his name from the Coast Guard. The Coast Guard didn't know his name until they pulled his wallet from his body, I reminded her. Then I don't know. Maybe he said it before he fell, she suggested desperately. While he was drowning? I asked. She slammed her hand on the counter. Stop picking apart everything I say. Just help me, she demanded. I maintained my confused husband act while my hidden cameras captured everything. She was unraveling, making mistakes with every word. The calculating woman who'd planned my murder for 4 months was gone, replaced by desperate panic. Detective Rivera arrived at our house the next evening. 20 years on the force, most of it investigating homicides, she had the kind of eyes that had seen every variation of human evil. She sat in our living room with a recorder and notepad, studying us both. Mrs. Carter, I need to understand your relationship with Andrew Reeves, she said directly. There was no relationship, Claire said too quickly. I didn't know him. Yet you screamed his name repeatedly while he drowned. The Coast Guard recorded everything, Rivera pointed out. Claire's hands twisted in her lap. I must have been confused. The trauma, your husband says you knew his name before anyone identified him, Rivera interrupted. Claire shot me a betrayed look. I shrugged helplessly, maintaining my facade of confusion. Detective Rivera turned to me. Mr. Carter, has your wife been acting unusual lately? This was my moment. I let hesitation play across my face, then spoke carefully. Actually, yes, she's been secretive with her phone. Our insurance policy was changed without my knowledge, and she planned this anniversary trip to a very isolated location. Daniel, Claire gasped. I'm just answering her questions, honey. I'm sure there's an explanation, I replied, maintaining my confused husband act. Rivera made notes. Mr. Carter, you're an insurance investigator, correct? Yes, 20 years, I confirmed. So you'd recognize signs of unusual behavior? She pressed. I'd like to think so, but apparently I missed something significant if my wife knew the man who died, I admitted. The detective studied us both, then made a decision. Mr. Carter, I'd like to speak with you privately. Mrs. Carter, please wait in the kitchen. Claire stood on shaking legs. This is insane. My husband nearly drowned. No, Rivera interrupted. Your husband was never in the water, but Andrew Reeves was, and you knew him well enough to scream his name while he died. After Claire left, Rivera leaned forward. Mr. Carter, I think you know more than you're saying. In my experience, insurance investigators don't miss details. So either you're the least observant investigator I've met, or you're holding back. I let my shoulders slump, playing the reluctant husband perfectly. I didn't want to believe it. Believe what? She asked. That something was wrong, but I pulled out my phone. I found something yesterday. After we got home from the lake, I showed her a screenshot of Claire's insurance policy change, the one she'd made without my knowledge. Rivera studied it carefully. She doubled your life insurance 4 months ago? Rivera asked, without telling me. And there's more, I replied. I hesitated as if struggling with loyalty. I'm an investigator, detective. After yesterday, I started investigating. I found a second phone. Rivera's eyes sharpened. Where is this phone? Hidden in her car. I didn't touch it. Didn't want to contaminate evidence. But I saw messages on the screen, I explained. I'll need to see that phone immediately, she said firmly. We went to the garage where Claire's Lexus was parked. The burner phone was tucked under the passenger seat where I'd watched her hide it on camera. Rivera photographed its position, then pulled it out with gloved hands. The screen lit up with 17 missed calls from Andrew's number and dozens of unread texts. The final message, sent minutes before his death, read, "On my way. Make sure he drinks it all." Jesus Christ, Rivera muttered. She looked at me with something like sympathy. Mr. Carter, I think you should see this. She scrolled through weeks of messages between Claire and Andrew, their murder plot laid out in digital detail. I acted shocked, horrified, devastated. All the emotions I'd already processed days ago. They were going to kill me? I asked, feigning disbelief. It appears so. Mr. Carter, I need you to come to the station. We need a full statement, and I need to secure your house as a crime scene, Rivera explained. Crime scene? I asked. Your wife and Andrew Reeves conspired to murder you. The fact that he died during the attempt doesn't change that. We'll be charging your wife with attempted murder, conspiracy, and potentially felony murder for Andrew's death, she informed me. When we returned to the house, Claire was on her phone in the kitchen. She hung up quickly when she saw us. Mrs. Carter, Rivera said formally, I need you to come with me. Why? I haven't done anything wrong, Claire protested. Rivera held up the burner phone in an evidence bag. This phone contains extensive evidence of a conspiracy to murder your husband. You're under arrest for attempted murder, conspiracy to commit murder, and insurance fraud. Claire's face went through a spectrum of colors. White, red, then ghostly pale again. Daniel, tell her! Tell her this is a mistake! She pleaded. I stood silent, letting her see the knowledge in my eyes. You knew, she whispered. You knew the whole time. I'm an investigator, Claire. It's what I do, I replied calmly. The mask finally dropped completely. Her face twisted with rage. You son of a bitch. You let Andrew die! I called for help immediately. You're the one who couldn't save him. Too panicked, too clumsy with the rope. Almost like you'd never actually practiced the rescue you claimed you'd rehearsed, I pointed out. Rivera placed Claire in handcuffs while reading her rights. Claire wasn't listening. She was staring at me with pure hatred. 15 years, she spat. 15 years of your boring routines, your predictable sex, your goddamn investigating stories. You think you're so smart? Andrew was twice the man you are. Andrew's dead, I reminded her. Because you two got sloppy. Drinking before a murder? Coming too early? Using a burner phone with no password? Amateur hour, Claire. She lunged at me, but Rivera held her back. Mrs. Carter, you're making this worse. As they led her out, Claire turned back one last time. You'll never find anyone who loved you like I did. Your version of love included murdering me for money. I'll take my chances, I replied. At the station, I provided Rivera with everything. The hidden camera footage, the audio recordings, the documentation of Claire's research and planning. The evidence was overwhelming and undeniable. The most damning piece was the video from our kitchen the morning of the trip. Claire carefully marking the beer bottle with nail polish, placing it specifically in the cooler, her voice clear on the audio. This is the one. Make sure he drinks this exact bottle. You've been building this case for days, Rivera observed. Why didn't you come to us immediately? Would you have believed me? A wife planning to murder her husband for insurance? Without evidence, it's just paranoia. I needed proof, I explained. You could have died, she pointed out. I'm an investigator. I know how to protect myself. And I had backup, I replied. I gave her Nathan's contact information. He was monitoring everything. If I'd missed a check-in, you would have gotten all of this automatically. Rivera reviewed the evidence for hours, occasionally asking for clarification. The scope of Claire's betrayal became clearer with each document. She'd been siphoning money for months, building her escape fund. She'd researched new identities, looking into how to disappear after collecting the insurance payout. She'd even joined online widow support groups to practice her grieving persona. The veterinary sedatives, Rivera said, reading a report. She stole them from her workplace? Her friend at the clinic reported them missing but didn't name suspects. Check the dates. It matches when Claire was last there, helping out, I confirmed. Nathan arrived at the station with additional evidence he'd gathered, Andrew's financial records showing Claire's payments, surveillance footage from the marina showing Andrew scouting the location days earlier, even recordings from Andrew's phone that he'd backed up to the cloud. Your wife was thorough, Rivera admitted, but not thorough enough. She left a digital trail a mile wide. The district attorney arrived to review the case. After 3 hours of examination, she made her decision. Claire would be charged with attempted murder in the first degree, conspiracy to commit murder, insurance fraud, and felony murder for Andrew's death. He died during the commission of a felony. Making Claire liable, she'll get 25 to life, the DA explained. Possibly life without parole if the jury's unsympathetic. The premeditation is extensive. That night I returned to our empty house. The crime scene tape was gone, but Claire's presence lingered like smoke. I walked through rooms we'd shared for 15 years, seeing them differently now. The bedroom where she'd lain beside me planning my death. The kitchen where she'd prepared my last meal. The living room where we'd watched movies while she texted her lover about murdering me. I found our wedding album in the closet and flipped through it. Claire looked radiant, young, seemingly in love. Had she ever loved me? Or had I always been a mark, a long con that took 15 years to play out? Nathan came by with beer, safe beer, and we sat on my deck overlooking the yard where Claire had practiced her grieving widow performance. How you holding up? He asked. I'm alive. That's more than Claire intended, I replied. You know what the hardest part is? Nathan said after a while. It's not the betrayal or the attempted murder. It's that you'll never really know when it started. When she stopped loving you, if she ever did. That'll eat at you if you let it. He was right. I'd investigated hundreds of crimes, but I'd never be able to pinpoint the moment my wife decided I was worth more dead than alive. The trial would come later. Claire would sit in a courtroom while prosecutors played her recorded conversations, showed her research history, displayed the marked beer bottle in its evidence bag. The jury would take less than 3 hours to convict on all counts, but that was months away. Tonight I sat in my empty house, alive against Claire's wishes, surrounded by the evidence of a marriage that had been dead long before anyone tried to make it official. My phone buzzed with a text from Rivera. Your wife's requesting to see you. Says she wants to explain everything? I deleted the message without responding. Claire had explained everything already. In 4 months of messages planning my murder. In her scream of Andrew's name as he drowned. In her final words claiming she'd loved me while planning my death. Some mysteries didn't need solving. Some lies didn't need explaining. I was alive. That was explanation enough. And so, we've reached the end of today's story. Was it what you expected, or did it take a twist you didn't see coming? I'm curious to hear your thoughts. Share them in the comments below, and let's get a conversation going. If this story kept you hooked, make sure to hit that like button. And if you're new here or just haven't subscribed yet, now's the perfect time to join our community. I bring you fresh, captivating stories every day, so click that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss out. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.